Breaking a story is gross. It's gross, sweaty work, and it's only fun if it's going well. And it's only going well about 5% of the time. As a result, a lot of cool story ideas get left unmade. But with the Story Clock Workbook, you can break open your story ideas to quickly find an organic narrative structure, mining your ideas, resources, and inspiration for every last ounce of potential. Whether you're looking to write a screenplay, novel, sermon, wedding toast, ransom note, even a podcast ad, the Story Clock Workbook can help you get your story ideas out of your head alive. Learn more about how you can make writing less gross at plotdevices.co and get 20% off your first order by using the code GAMESHOW at checkout. Oh my god, it's literally bow wow. Bow wow.
Very Hans Zimmer-esque, yeah.
And the whole trailer is just the building like falling sequence, and they're like, "Oh, holy crap! What is this? Oh, what is this movie?"
And then you just hear it goes to black, and you hear life moves pretty fast. Bow wow.
Hey everyone, I'm Ryan.
And I'm Seth!
And welcome back to the Writer's Room Game Show. It's the podcast where every week we generate an original feature film idea from scratch in under 60 minutes, working from a set of random prompts given to us by a big Hollywood studio.
At the beginning of every episode, the studio, which is really just an iPhone shortcut, assigns us, the contestants, Ryan and I, a new project consisting of 4 components: the genre, the tone, the demographic, and the studio mandate. And the studio mandate, in case you're wondering, is basically just a random thing that the studio is requiring of us.
And then we have 1 hour to develop a feature film idea that fits the assigned criteria with surprise roadblocks along the way. Or should I say surprise roadblock? Just one of them.
Really just one.
Just one.
It's no different each episode. At the end of that episode, we will, this very one, we'll focus group the idea with one of our talented filmmaker friends, and we're going to ask them. We're going to ask them some actual focus group questions. We're going to say, hey, you, would you see this movie? And also, would you recommend this movie to a friend, loved one, or enemy? And if they answer positively, we win. We roll around in money for 8 hours, recording the entire thing. You must listen to all of it. And that's the end of my copy for this paragraph.
8 to 10 hours is what it's recommended.
Doctors recommend 8 to 10 hours of rolling in money.
And if they answer negatively, we'll quit screenwriting altogether, and then we'll do it again next week. Actually,
no, we won't.
We won't do it again next week because we have some special episodes coming out, because this technically is the finale of our season 1 of the Writer's Room Game Show.
I don't know why I'm yelling it like that. Is that what networks do? Someone off in the distance yells season finale. Someone rings a bell in your town and they actually go up to the hill and shout it through a megaphone.
For every single show, they have to say the title and then scream season finale.
And the genre, the tone, the demographic, and the studio mandate. Oh, it goes for about 30 minutes. Many complaints.
This has been such a fun time recording this show. I think both of us have discovered our favorite new thing to do every week.
Hang out with our friends, Ryan and Seth. Honestly, dude, this is like the most fun I have all day.
Likewise.
The only thing that even equals this is my other show that I started right at the same time called VFX and Chill with Hashi and Seth. And I'm not kidding. These 2 shows have been like the most fun thing I've done in a while. You just had to get a cell in there. I actually make an effort not to.
No,
promote.
I love it. It's such a great show.
John Oliver could easily cut together like a highlight reel of me saying, I don't cross promote shows, and then cross promoting my shows.
Yeah, dude, it's been such a fun time. I think, I remember when I came to you with the show, when it was in its infancy, before it was a game show, it was kind of like this thing. It's like, oh, it'd be fun to just, write stuff with Seth. And then when we're actually here doing it, it's so much more fun than I originally imagined.
That is the most surprising part, is like, I thought this would be a really good and healthy exercise for us to, like, I'll speak for myself at least, like to stay fresh, and like, because like totally. So many, I'm not making a lot of, anyone who's ever followed my work has probably noticed I haven't been making a lot of visible work in a while.
Same.
Because I'm doing a lot of long-term writing. I'm doing commercials and things like that. But I've been trying to develop a lot of larger projects that take a lot of time to get off the ground. And so through that development process, I've found myself going a long time without producing anything. And I am scared of not staying fresh and kind of losing relevance and losing just the muscles, the blood stops flowing to the muscles is what I'm worried would happen. And so what's been fun is
you're speaking my language.
Doing this has been, your language is blood not flowing to muscles. Yeah. This has been so fun, man.
To be able to look back at 10 weeks and say we have 10 feature film ideas, they're not all winners, but I think most we talk about it. We can rank them in like probably the top 5. We'd be like, yeah, well, I would actually go and develop that further.
Let's do that. It's our season finale. We should do that.
Okay, so let's run
number 10. Sorry.
Let's let's run season finale. Let's first let me read through. This is just making me think of Dwight at the garden party announcing everyone as they walk in.
100%. So sorry, I'm sending out to the decree our entire slate of episodes.
Let's recap our 9 episodes so far, and then let's rank them. I think that would be fun. So first off, we have Domesticated, episode 1, which was our Hallmark movie, where our romantic comedy, where our leads actually switch places with their dogs.
Wait. We're doing this all wrong. You don't rank according. You don't list them in order and then say what number they are.
Oh, we should probably rank them backwards, right? To our number 1.
Yeah. So we should like number 10 through 1, and like each of us will say our own number 10. So real quick.
And number 9. This is number 10. Season finale.
Season finale. Let's see.
So yeah, let's go through our favorite episodes. Let's actually rank them. Let's start from 9 and rank them all the way to 1. Maybe we each give our own rankings to see how they differ. Seth, are you down for that?
Yeah, I love that.
Okay, you start.
Number 9. Wait, am I doing this in the decree voice? Like number 9. Is that the voice it should be? My wife is very concerned upstairs.
just say your number 9, Seth. Let's hear it.
Number 9. Oh, sorry, we're saying it. Sorry, not my take on the number 9. 3, 2, 1. Mira and the synthetic sea.
Plastitopia has fallen.
God, it was bad. Yeah.
Wasn't great. It was a shell of an idea. We really didn't even get too far with that one.
A plastic shell of an idea.
Yes. It was a fun. I think the episode itself was really fun.
Yeah.
The idea deserves I don't know anybody who would put that above number 9.
Cut to Universal Pictures buying it.
They would change the title to something even worse somehow.
And for those listening that may not have heard it, Mira and the Synthetic Sea, we were assigned hard sci-fi and, oh God, I'm forgetting all of this. Basically, it was a hard sci-fi film for teens or young adults or something.
No, young girls. It was preteens.
Young girls.
Yeah.
And we came up with a bad idea.
Yeah, it wasn't great. But that was our episode 5. So if you want to go check it out, episode 5 of the Writers Room Game Show.
It's the longest title. Number 8. What's your number 8?
Actually, let me correct that. It's episode 6. My number 8 is actually Lois, our second episode of the
Me too.
show. Oh, no, nice. I think Lois, it was really fun to get to arrive at our Superman, Lois Lane spinoff. And I loved that it's through Lois Lane's perspective. But I think for me, just the fact that it's not super original, that we're sort of mining existing IP and doing like...
It got more boring the second we made it a Superman movie, to me, at least personally. However, I do know there are several people out there, there's at least one specific person out there who was like, this actually would work really great. Lois's dad is an army general, like a military general, and I'd forgotten that.
Totally works out.
It works out. But yeah, I'm with you. I
have a few friends that actually that's their favorite episode.
It is interesting. I loved our opening sequence. Like I loved the drive-in theater sequence. That was the most Spielberg-y thing I think I've ever been a part of, like blocking or staging out.
Yeah, it was a romance, a playful romance for fans of Steven Spielberg.
Right. Yeah. I still think there's a good version that's like where it's like Twilight with an alien, but the alien looks like
a literal alien.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your number
7? Mine is Blood-Soaked Khaki.
That's mine.
Whoa, we have the same list. Are you reading my list? We share a document.
No, I'm on my notes app, but yeah, Blood-Soaked Khaki.
I love that episode. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. I was going to say, I think that episode was super, super fun with Ryan Connolly, of course. It's always fun coming, and that was so perfectly somehow crafted to
aligned
Ryan's
with his tastes. Yeah,
and I love like Mission Impossible meets The Thing, and sort of having.
See, that's cool. I
like
really
the alien that is taking some of the spy movie tropes and making it as part of their sort of thing. I was a big fan of that.
And that's why I would say it's so low on my list is because it feels like a shell, like Lois. Like it feels like we came up with a cool one-liner like pitch, like it's Mission Impossible meets The Thing, like super, super cool, like it's a spy movie that's a monster movie. But I just don't feel like we didn't have time to come up with like characters and gags and like the stuff that really is substantial for a spy movie and even a monster movie is like not even the characters, but like the set pieces and
totally.
So I feel like we can make something cool out of it, but right now it's still just a generic shell of an idea.
A little bit more time would really help that shine.
I will say Cammie understood our intentions with it though when we pitched it to her, and she like, I think there's potential with that one. But
Totally.
Number 6.
What's your number
mine
6?
is Dead Girl Summer.
Okay, mine is different. Mine is domesticated.
So Dead Girl Summer is lower for me. Honestly, at this point, it's just because now we're at the point where if something is low on the list, it's because I just love everything above it so much more, not because I dislike this one so much.
Totally.
Dead Girl Summer, I actually think we had some people, we'll get to this on a later episode, but we had some listeners call in with suggestions on how to make Dead Girl Summer better.
They were actually way better.
Way better.
Totally.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
So that's why, that's another reason why
I'm very excited to play one of those and talk about them on one of our bonus episodes in between
I
seasons.
understand why Domesticated is lower for you. So I want to hear if you have any reasons.
Well, I ranked them by how much I love the idea, but also how much I would want to make them, in real life. And so a Hallmark movie, I'm not really crazy about making. I would write this with you and try to sell it. That's something I would definitely do.
Done. If you're out there, Hallmark. Well, no, because I agree with you. Oh, I'll talk about it when I get to. No, I guess we can talk about it. We're talking about Domesticated.
But I really love. It's so fun. I think that's such a great way for us to start the show. That was actually a third episode to record, but we thought it was so fun. We wanted to release it as the first one. But I think just the idea in general, just the fact that it's a Hallmark movie and there's body swap and there's so many other body swap Hallmark movies, probably not quite like ours, but wasn't quite as original, I thought, as some of our other ideas.
It wasn't, but again, it's all, to me, what's fun about this is that no Hallmark movie seems original on the surface. They all look exactly the same.
That's true.
Like, what's fun, I like our concept. I feel like we came up with kind of a fun, fresh twist.
The ex-wife, that part, so good.
The what?
The ex-wife loving the dog. Yeah. That's my favorite part.
Well, there's so many little things that I really love, like sitting around eating dog food and things like it. It's actually a concept that I feel like with the right cast, and if we wrote it if we got to write it in our voice, it could actually, it's like the Lord and Miller effect, where like you take something that it comes with ingrained with low expectations, and you just make it the best possible version and the most interesting version you can think of.
If you take away a Hallmark movie and you just make it as a studio comedy, I think that it jumps up like 2 or 3 numbers for me on the list.
Okay, for me, it's the opposite. For some reason, when you said that, I got less interested.
Interesting.
I think because the idea Hallmark movie, okay, it's like early in Jon Favreau's career, he was making stuff like Seth and Elf and even the first Iron Man. Nobody expected any of those to be great, especially Elf. You look at Elf and no one expects Elf to be so good. And part of the reason it's able to be so fun is because it's packaged in this like low expectation thing. And so I feel like the package of the Hallmark movie actually helps us to where like we can make something that is relatively really interesting in that world. Whereas studio comedies these days are just overall boring. You heard it here, folks. Seth hates studio comedies. They don't make any.
Suddenly, Comedy Studio dropped off from from listening to this podcast.
The entire, all studios,
all of them. Number 5. What do you got?
Pine Bluff Summons.
Pine Bluff Summons. Same with me.
I love it.
Which our last
I'm just
episode.
not Wes Anderson.
Same. And I think it's what you said earlier. The everything above this, I like it just a little bit. I like it a little bit more than the one before it. I still really like it.
That said, I feel like you and I could write Pine Bluff Summons and make a really Wes Anderson-y movie that's really funny.
That was some of the most fun we've had actually recording because the ideas were so ridiculous.
You set weird, it's expectations, but you set weird specific expectations or style, like no one's expecting major laughs on a Wes Anderson movie. And so you can just write small, nuanced behavioral kind of comedy moments and just have fun with them and take the pressure off, which is, I think, why Pine Bluff Summons was so fun to write.
Agreed. Totally. Number 4.
That's Domesticated for me.
Okay. Dead Girl Summer. They just switched them.
I think Dead Girl Summer is a really good Ryan Pauly movie because you're more of a horror director than I am.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I'm a horror director, but I think with
you have more horror taste than I do.
Totally. And I think like combining horror, sci-fi, and comedy all into one little package. I think that I'm definitely into. I would definitely want to write and make Dead Girl Summer at some point, especially incorporating some better ideas
from our listeners for free.
Yes. Hey. Sorry, this is an audio podcast.
For those audio podcast, Ryan held his hands up, and my hands are clean. I'm not touching them.
Okay, number 3, I had Murder Most Foul.
Oh, I had The Greeter.
Ooh, interesting. That was my number 2. The Greeter's my number 2.
Murder Most Foul is my number 2.
Okay,
so
another switcheroo.
Why is The Greeter higher for you?
Again, like I said earlier, I sort of rank them in how likely I am to actually make the movie. I think The Greeter, to me, a sort of indie actioner is something I'm I'm definitely into making, especially something that is sort of this suburban Walmart setting, but you have a lot of like karate inspiration. You have Anthony Hopkins as this old man sort of fighting these younger people. I love the relationship between him and his daughter. There's a lot of things that can seem like they're ripping off other things, but I feel like there's room there for it to be really original and fun.
It's all about how much you commit to the characters and their relationships.
Totally.
Honestly,
And then Murder Most Foul for me, it's something I love so much. I think it's still, to me, it's kind of still far from being like a fully fledged, none of them are fully fledged like movies, but there's a lot of stuff in it that we had a lot of bits and like gags that were really fun, but the idea as a whole still needs so much work for me that's basically the difference between that and The Greeter, where The Greeter, I feel like we had pretty much like a 3-act kind of story that we could fill in the middle. But
that's true. I was about to poke a hole in that what you just said by asking who the bad guys were, but then I remember that with our focus group with Katie, she had such a really great I can't remember how we landed on it, but we came to that whole idea of like trying to get revenge on Jeff Bezos.
It was like a Logan Lucky style like heist crew that were trying to, but it went awry and they're trying to get back at the Walton family, and
and
I
that's
love
fun.
that idea.
That's really fun. Murder Most Foul for me, I think it's the Robert Zemeckis like fan in me that makes me, because it's a little more screwball comedy in a way that like
I can see you making that way, like it makes sense that I would make The Greeter and you would make Murder Most Foul.
I actually 100% agree with you.
Yeah,
because Murder Most Foul to me feels like it's one of those where it's like walking such a fine line between, like, on one side of this tightrope. I guess when you fall off a tightrope, you fall down. You don't fall on a side. But like on one side is just the sheer stupidity and like just a dumb movie, like a dumb, super broad movie. And then on the other side is, I didn't think this through, is a bad movie. So like but it's that fine line that doesn't make sense, walking the fine line between those. But it's basically, it's a tightrope. You're walking over a lava bed of stupid movies, broad comedy, and badness. But to me, like it's one of those things where if you hit the bullseye, it's like such a satisfying, hilarious genre mash of weird ideas.
Totally.
Yeah, our buddy Ryan Summers was messaging us on Instagram. He was like, Murder Most Foul is basically a Muppet movie, right? Like if you just cast everybody except Harrison Ford and Margot Robbie as Muppets, I was like, oh my God. One change I'd make is that the farmer's son is the only other human, and it's Timothy Chalamet. And the rest of them, so it's Margot Robbie, Harrison Ford, Timothy Chalamet, and the rest are all Muppets.
Yes.
I'd make it.
Muppets and Chuck E. Cheese animatronics.
Yeah.
That it immediately was like a stroke of genius. I'm like, oh yeah, this is a Muppets movie, 100%.
Yeah, it's so brilliant.
Especially the chickens from the Muppets are so freaking funny. Like they are the chickens on the movie. So okay, so that was your number 2. Greeter was your number 3.
What's funny, we both have the same number 1.
Yes, it's funny. We have 4 of these are the exact same. Delete your account, number 1.
Delete your account. I'd write that in a heartbeat. I feel like is the blacklist still a thing? I haven't actually kept up with it in a long time.
It's still a thing, and I think we both write this, put it up there.
Just to get it on the blacklist, and we absolutely would get it on there because we're so good at writing.
It's one of those where it's like, yes, it did start as What If fanboys, but Zack Snyder. But I think it became something that was much more, 1, interesting, but 2, like emotionally like resonant with the making this terrible toxic YouTube commenter into a empathetic character that we can understand and
it's very relevant, and it's the best thing, dude. Right? It's like it's a thematically and like societally relevant concept. Like it's like relevant ideas wrapped up in a super fun genre that we like, super popcorny fun genre. Like that's the thing, right? That's what we want to do. And it leans indie, which makes it even more, because it's not like a super high concept idea. It doesn't rely on big blue beams in the sky, although it does take place in the alien universe. But
that's true. The post-credits scene.
Other than that, which I'm proud of how we tied that into the alien universe, to be honest. I feel like it worked. But
it's the only way you can do it. But yeah, I mean, it's so fun. Like it would be so much fun to write those jokes and to sort of poke fun at this sort of terrible internet trend that we've seen of these just toxic people on Twitter and YouTube, and like hopefully turn a mirror on them and show how terrible they are. But I mean, delete your account. It's definitely not that was the first thing I put on this list, was delete your account.
Hey, we should before we get to the show, I don't think the studio's going to call yet, but we've got some reviews we want to read, right? Podcast reviews?
Yes. A lot of you have gone to Apple Podcasts like we've talked about at the end of the show if you stick around and left some awesome reviews. So far, we've gotten only one 4-star review and the rest are 5 stars. So congratulations.
Who is that son of a bitch? I'm just kidding.
They didn't leave a review, but shameless. But there's
Mom, why? No, I'm just kidding. My mom loves it. It's not my mom.
We did get one review that just said first name Seth, middle name Smom. Would watch again.
I don't know if that's a comment about our podcast or my mom.
Also, you don't watch this podcast, you listen. This great review left by TFB 20153. Amazing person.
That's my Android friend. He's super cool.
They said,
loves podcasts.
Whose line is it anyway, but more self-deprecating?
Yeah, that was the pitch, right?
That checks out.
That was originally our pitch.
That checks out. Seth and Ryan deliver a fresh, hilarious, and unpredictable series where they create a new Hollywood film every week in under 60 minutes. And it's always worth it.
Correct.
Then they said occasional guest appearances make for extra fun, but they hold their own.
Hey, we don't need all these celebrity friends.
We hold our own.
We hold our own.
Season finale.
Season finale.
Last one I'll read just because it's an interesting headline here. Fun show whether you're a writer or a human. So are writers not humans?
No, writers are monsters.
Writer or human, you'll love the show. You'll be yelling your own ideas and suggestions at Ryan and Seth, making you look just as crazy as you actually are. That's from Jordathan, which I think might be my cousin. My cousin.
Yeah, Jordathan Polly. I love Jordathan Polly.
Jonathan Jordan. So maybe it's Jordathan. We'll see. We'll see if that is actually my cousin.
Tune in next week, folks, to find out. Tune in for season 2 to find out if it's Jordathan is really Ryan's cousin.
But thank you to all of our wonderful listeners that go onto Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review. It really does help us.
It really does help us. It helps us emotionally, and it helps us also. It helps validate us to Apple. I mean, look.
We have to look at some sort of chart to see if we're even on it. Surely we're not.
We're not. It's okay. We just started this podcast. We don't expect massive viewership in the first season, but I will say, if we don't have massive viewership in the second season, I will kill myself. No, I really love the art that we have. Oh.
You want
when I talk a lot, Zoom won't let me hear my phone ringing. So hold on. Sorry.
Seth, do you actually want to take it today?
Yeah, I'll reach to the Zoom. Hang on. Okay. I forgot that I have a phone. Let me get all this stuff off my desk. All these papers. There it is. My office landline. Hello? Yes. Hello. This is the writer, Seth Worley.
Wow. Seth has completely changed when he talks to the
studio. It's an old phone. This is my Hollywood voice. I'm sorry. I have to put up a whole act. Yes, tell me. Tell me more about it. I'm half committing to this voice, too, so it's a little weird. My dog is mad at somebody walking by. Okay, listen, studio. Here's the deal. I want you to tell me exactly what we're making. What? They hung up. They emailed you?
Yes. Strangely enough, the studio actually sent me an email. I don't know if they told you on the phone, but they actually sent me the email this time. It's incredible.
I didn't listen. I talked the entire time on that phone call.
That's maybe why they were angry and gave us this specific assignment.
Oh, no. Why they only call you, too. So, angry?
The genre we got was fantasy.
Oh.
The tone, ironic.
What? We just did Wes Anderson.
The target was podcast hosts.
Self-serving.
Very self-serving. And then the studio mandate, they actually said after the studio has been seeing some huge success with lega-sequels. The studio is demanding that the script be a direct sequel to a beloved 80s blockbuster, but set in modern day. So I'm thinking maybe something like Cobra Kai, where it's like a direct sequel to Karate Kid, but it's the modern, that kind of
Jam.
thing.
Yeah, that's not an 80s, but
Ghostbusters, something like that.
Ghostbusters, yeah.
But so that is it. Fantasy, ironic. Podcast hosts are the target. I have no idea how we're supposed to get podcast hosts as
we just fill it with purple mattresses and Squarespace.
Yeah, and
the
meal delivery service.
The Writer's Room game show has begun.
Get this thing started.
This one scares me. I don't know why.
Fantasy. So a fantasy, it's based in modern day, and it's a Lego sequel to an 80s movie. So we're gonna have to do some research. Ironic. I feel like we can hit ironic by just throwing some things that are at odds.
I don't know. Let's see.
And then
80s movies.
Podcast hosts.
We can interpret 80s. Podcast host is just like catering to our taste, you and
us.
I.
Yeah, we can
that's
just
not really. I mean, that's not. It wouldn't be acceptable.
We can be
I don't know
thinking
what
about how did this get made the entire time and make sure that they would like it.
That's our fallback. We'll say that's what it's for. Okay, I'm going to say a few popular 80s movies that actually are fun to think about. The Breakfast Club.
A fantasy twist on The Breakfast Club. That's kind of fun.
The Lost Boys.
I've actually never seen The Lost Boys. So.
Oh, dude, you've never seen... Dude, Lost Boys... You've never seen the movie where a vampire gets shot by an arrow? The arrow goes through their heart into a stereo system and electrocutes them while being a stake through the heart, while electrocuting them, while blasting rock music. It's the most 80s thing ever captured on film ever.
I'm adding it to the list. I'm so sorry. And 80s are kind of my thing, so I'm surprised that I haven't
Exactly.
seen it.
I know.
We're not doing the
You're
Goonies.
eating
We're not doing
maggots, Michael.
Gremlins.
That's all. We're not doing Goonies or, oh my God. You know what? Oh no.
That would be ironic, you making one of those movies.
Honestly, if we did Gremlins, it would complete a seasonal arc for us, the two of us.
I'm not letting you touch Gremlins, Seth. I'm sorry.
Why not? Don't you think that I would possibly? JJ wasn't a fan of Trek originally, and
Really?
the first one was great. Yeah, he wasn't a Trek fan at all. It was Kurtzman, Orsi, and Lindelof who were the big Trek fans.
I mean, I wouldn't mind doing a Lego sequel to Gremlins. I know they're making an animated prequel series right now.
That sounds like a nightmare.
No, it's this beautiful. It takes place in China, and it's like the start of the Gremlins, and it's the
that actually does sound cool.
The old man who gave away Gizmo in the beginning of the movie. It's him as a young man in China.
Well,
Let's not
here's
do
the
Gremlins.
thing. I don't want to do it, but I feel like our listeners want to hear it. Like I feel like if you've been invested in this season, you want to hear us write a
Here's the
Gremlins
thing.
Lego sequel.
How fun would it be to make a Gremlins movie that you actually enjoy? We take out Santa being ruined. We
put Santa back into it. We have to have Santa be a real character, like a character who it plays into the film integrally and is like, I've been real the whole time. Ho ho, Gremlins.
The thing is, though, with the Lego sequels, what's interesting about Lego sequels, there's an iconic character, which Gizmo is really the iconic. I don't care about the humans and Gremlins at all.
Oh, same. Really interesting. Because I thought you loved Gremlins, and yet
do.
you don't care about any of the humans.
Okay, no, but you know what I mean. Like I'm not watching for the human characters. The thing
But
about
that is part of the reason I don't like the film.
The thing about Lego sequels, though, it's these iconic characters that are young. It's something you would think of like Indiana Jones, this fifth Indiana Jones movie, where it's like, let's see him after so many years. We get to know them in our current landscape, whatever. So I think we should pick a movie where it's like the characters are either young adults or kids, and then pick up in modern time and incorporate fantasy into that somehow.
Let me just ask you a couple questions, though. Where did we leave? I didn't see Gremlins 2. I only saw the amazing Key and Peele sketch about Gremlins 2. Now, what happens at the end of Gremlins? Like, where are the Gremlins at the end of that film?
I've seen it one time. I've seen the first Gremlins like 20 times. I'm not really sure where the new batch ends up.
Do we want to do like a Halloween where we just like ignore the Gremlins 2 and just do
completely? But the thing is, do we need to see Gizmo like 40 years later?
How do Gremlins age?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I feel like we should something like the Breakfast Club, where we can pick a Breakfast Club character. Maybe there's some sort of fantasy thing where they have to reunite the Breakfast Club again to like something like that is more interesting, where it's like dealing with these human characters that we know.
What about... Okay, guys. Sorry. I tried. I was willing to do a Lego sequel to Gremlins on this podcast.
No, the thing
Pauly
is,
himself
I love
understood
Gremlins.
The integrity of the franchise wouldn't hold up in a Lego sequel.
You guys, I really do love Gremlins. I want to make this a movie that I really like too. Instead of just saying, since we started with Gremlins, let's do that.
This is another situation where it's like, I have a Lego sequel pitch to an 80s movie, but we never stated the rules here, but I can't bring it onto the podcast. My Roger Rabbit idea.
I was about to say, I don't, and that's an incredible idea. I don't want to. That doesn't need any like an hour worth of us rewriting it.
Okay.
It's already so good.
Well, tune into my other podcast in the works to hear my Roger Rabbit Lego sequel idea.
Breakfast Club, I think, is fun. We've got Back to
the Future.
Back to the Future. What's something that fantasy like something like a John Hughes thing where it's like a Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Ooh, Ferris.
I was about to say Ferris.
What if we did Ferris Bueller's Day Off? We pick up Ferris as just a bum.
That's the problem. Ferris is going to be a loser.
But here's the thing: fantasy. What if the fantasy thing is like there's some sort of time travel, fantastical time travel thing where because he was a slacker and like as a high schooler, his life ended up like this. Sloane divorced him. Cameron is like succeeding, like all this stuff. He has like the ability to go back in time and redo his day off or something.
Okay.
And like change his life for the better by like staying in school or something. And
Ferris Bueller's Day On.
I don't know. I'm spitballing here, but like
I actually love where you're going with this. Keep going.
But because I've always like that's my favorite movie of all time, and I love.
So you relive it. You basically go back in time.
Yeah.
You do through de-aging. You relive.
Yes, and obviously we've always talked about. I did that plot devices. It was actually my first story clock
research log
was Ferris, and lots of people have talked about this. But the story of Ferris Bueller is the protagonist is sort of Cameron. He's the one going through the emotional change throughout the film, kind of learning to let loose and dealing with this stuff with his father. Ferris is always just the slacker. He's living life. He's enjoying his young high school days. But I've always thought that as an adult, he's not going anywhere. And so it could be fun to pick that up as how old would they be now? I guess it's been about 40 years.
Let's find that out. So we're doing this. I love this idea and I love this concept you've just come up with. The idea of, I have questions. So just to sum up, Ferris is given the opportunity to go. It's determined that this moment in his life was the determining like fulcrum of his life rests on. It was this defining moment that set him on a course toward like.
We need a nexus event to change the course of his life.
Yeah.
A nexus event.
It's a nexus event. And so he is given the opportunity to go back to that day and change the course of the day and to improve his quality of life, like now as an adult with the wisdom he has as an adult. So here's my question. Is he reliving it in the first person or is he manipulating it? Like are we doing Back to the Future 2 or are we doing where he's in his... Yeah.
I think he should be at first person.
I think first person also because he talks because he has the third wall breaking narration. And so you get this new like narrative on the like this new like
this is sort of our what if Ferris Bueller. But I like this too because we can with fantasy there can be some sort of fantastical either item or spirit or something that makes sense that would show up and almost like a Ghost of Christmas Past or something like that. But a more John Hughesian to kind of give him this opportunity to change the course of his life. And I think what's really funny to me is obviously the reason we love that movie is because we root for Ferris. We know that he's sort of like he's not the A student. He's not this goody two shoes. He's just having fun and we're enjoying him, watching him and Sloan have fun and bringing Cameron on and trying to get him to let loose and change for the better. But in this, if he lives his whole life and realizes like I should have took this more serious, I should have tried to get into a good college and got a job and like Sloan wouldn't have left me and all this stuff. It's almost like it goes back to try to live out a boring day and maybe Sloan or other people in his life expect him to be different and it's like changing the way that they're acting too.
We have to figure out what the conflict, like what obstacles he has in that. Like what could the obstacle be?
Dude, he realizes that if they don't do the day like they originally did, Cameron never gets out of his situation and he has...
This is what I was about to pitch you.
He has a terrible life.
So I was going to pitch you this. I still don't think it answers the question of the obstacle, but I was going to say, what if we work toward the midpoint or the end of the second act as like he succeeds and Cameron's life is ruined because of it and possibly Sloan's life too.
Yeah.
So we can say something about like...
This just became very kind of depressing. Ironic? Is it ironic? I don't know.
It's not depressing because then he goes back and like basically you make it about, it's bittersweet, but it's also coming of age in a way because it's about not having regrets about your past and your choices and starting over now in the present. And it could end with him like going back, resetting everything, and then making things right with them in person in the present day somehow. We have to set something up that we set up some kind of stubborn thing about him that he has to let go of and go do as a gesture at the end of it to try and like make amends with Sloan and Cameron. And my only thing is the audience has to feel for the first two acts, like, or at least for the entirety of the second act, like the goal really is to change the events of the day. So we need an acting obstacle to like stop that, to make that hard for him.
So we have, if we look back and we try to like, I guess good lega-sequels that we've seen, they sort of take the characters that we've seen already. So we have obviously Principal Rooney, who is the acting antagonist throughout the whole first film, who if Ferris isn't taking the day off, he just day like it normally would be. And then we also have his sister. Why am I forgetting? Shauna.
Is it Shauna?
No, that's what she goes by. Jeannie.
Jeannie, right?
Yeah, but
Jeannie.
she tells Charlie Sheen that her name's Shauna, and you hear Shauna. So those are sort of our two antagonists. Obviously, Rooney's the big one, and the genie eventually turns into an ally. So if he goes back and basically goes to school, where's the conflict at school that's acting against him doing that thing? I guess, especially if it's this one day, he's obviously taken.
I worried. What was the question?
Oh, no, I'm thinking through the conflict, because if he is in school, Rooney's not chasing him, Genie's not suspicious. So like the conflict there, it's kind of non-existent if we're thinking back to the original film. And then
yeah, that's why it's like there's got to be some outside force that like, well, what if Rooney ends up trying to sabotage him because Rooney hates him and Rooney's convinced? What if Rooney's convinced he's like up to something and he's like, I'm legitimately in class, and he's like, this is an act. He's got something so and so. So Rooney ends up screwing it all up for him somehow. By like. Did you just pitch that and I missed it?
No. This is great. Because, I mean, the whole thing is Rooney...
Is he a senior, by the way?
Yes, he's a senior. Sloane's a junior.
Okay, so Ferris is 18. We'll say he's 18. That's in 1986.
And the whole thing is Rooney calls home and he's like, he's been sick 9 times. And then, it slowly, goes down. He hacks the computer or whatever. This could be a thing where, maybe Rooney's so out to get him. He's like, I want to ruin his career. Even if he's at school, I'm going to try to make it to where, he was figuring out a way to sabotage him in that way, almost like the world wants Ferris to skip school and have this day off. Him going back, it's like, I don't know what you call that, like the whole paradox where if you try to save someone's life going back in time, they're always going to die. I don't know.
Yes.
Maybe I'm overthinking this. So it's like,
okay, so let's actually talk character here. Like I just did the math. Ferris is 53, and so they're all in their early 50s if this comes out in 2021. And what if let's say Ferris works in a movie theater. Just feel like
I love that.
As a 53-year-old, no offense to 53-year-olds who work at movie theaters at all.
He's sweeping up popcorn and like cleaning floors.
He doesn't even manage it. He's not even
totally.
Or I feel like he should be the manager. I feel like it's a little much for him just to be.
He's he's an assistant manager, and his manager is like 16 years old. I think it has to be one of those things, because I feel like he still needs to still have the same attitude where he's like taking days off work and stuff like that. Like he's still living to have fun.
Okay, so here's the trailer. It's the teaser. Ferris on a movie theater, scene from Ferris Bueller plays. The movie ends, and then we cut to Matthew Broderick sitting in the theater watching it. Yes, and he turns the camera and he's like, what are you still doing here? It's over. And then, or he turns and he gives like a narration and talks, and then another usher or someone goes, what are you still doing here? Put your hat back on. He puts his hat back on, gets up and has to like clean the theater and sweep. And he goes, life moves pretty fast. Or what it could be like,
life moves terribly slow or something.
Terribly slow here. It also moves very fast. You don't stop and take a look around once in a while. You'll be 53 and working in a movie theater before you know it. I like life moves terribly slow is really funny.
Okay, so Ferris, he's working there, dead end. Sloane, they talk about, Sloane says he's running away, and she says, I'm going to marry that boy. I think they should get married super young, get divorced super young, because
they should have a kid super early.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Sloane raises that kid. The kid is obviously adult by now, sort of out of the house.
His name's Cameron.
Yes, his name's Cam. And then Cameron, I think, should be super successful.
Oh, yeah.
What
did his dad do? I forgot.
I forget too, but he had a nice Ferrari, didn't he?
And a really nice garage.
Dude, that house is so freaking cool. I've always wanted that house. But yeah, Cameron's doing really well. So I think maybe first act is kind of seeing Ferris, his daily life. We're establishing where our characters are now. I definitely think we should try to establish maybe some of the other characters too, like Jeannie and a small, maybe, dude, what if Ferris lives with his parents?
Oh my God,
he had to
that's
move
so
back.
good.
They live in the same house, and maybe he's taking care of them because they're old now.
Yeah.
It can mirror like him being sick in bed from the first one. I don't know. So we establish in the first act kind of where everybody is. We need some sort of fantasy element that is going to send him back in time, but we also need, a moment where he's realizing, I don't think he would immediately realize that this one day in time is what put me on this path and why I am the way I am.
Yeah, how can it be communicated to him? Or I don't know, maybe it could. Could he have somehow flunked out of, could there be academic repercussions for his skipping school that day that we didn't see in the film?
Oh, he wasn't able to graduate?
Yeah.
Yeah, Rooney somehow still got back at him.
Yeah.
That
was like the last good day he had.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
And so therefore something must have happened.
Other than Sloane and him marrying, having a kid and divorcing.
Even that was bad. Even that was hard. Maybe they
she was pregnant and it was a shotgun wedding. Yes, that's it. That's it. They got pregnant that day.
Oh, whoa. Okay.
Well, but now we're not going by about time. rules where if he redoes that day, they're not going to have the same kid because he does love the kid. That's one thing that was very sad about that movie to me and the physics of time travel.
About time?
Yes, because I really do love that movie.
I agree.
But
I know. I love parts of that movie, but overall, it was very hard for me to stomach because Rachel McAdams is a passive character, and their child gets changed like halfway through, and it's like
that was like heart wrenching
really
for
hard.
me. Like we watched it, we
too.
rewatched it like a few weeks before we had our baby, and like my heart, I almost like started like bawling, thinking about like
your other child's gone.
Yeah.
It's played as a joke.
Well, it's played seriously, but then they write it off so fast. But but I do like them maybe getting pregnant on that day or something, having to do a shotgun wedding, and then getting divorced young, and it becomes this really sad thing. And that was his day off was the last, truly happy day he had. That's interesting because that becomes a thing for him. He looks back at that day fondly, and it's like this memorable thing. It's not just another day in his sort of lazy life.
Does he go back to try to relive it, and then realize while getting through it that like this actually realizes that it's like maybe if he does things differently, the day will go differently now that he has like time away from it, and like
that's interesting. Almost like he has multiple tries.
Yeah.
What if there's
that's interesting.
Dude,
a multiple tries. I don't know about that. I feel like he needs one chance. Okay. You know what I mean? Like,
but then how does he go back? Oh, you're saying he starts the day like he usually does, and then
maybe it starts to click for him somehow. We have some kind of informer.
Because I was about to say with fantasy, the 3 wishes thing is very fantasy, but it's probably that's a little like fairy tale for me.
Yeah,
but
Ferris tale, you mean? Jumping in here real quick to tell you all about the Story Clock Workbook from Plot Devices. The Story Clock Workbook was built for getting your story ideas out of your head alive. Okay, here's the actual deal with this ad. Most people, myself included, try to skip these little mid-roll sponsor breaks by hitting that skip ahead 30 seconds button built into most podcast apps, but you didn't. You said to yourself, Chrissy, don't hit that skip button. Seth Worley is talking and you respect him. And I heard you, Chrissy. That's why I'm going to reward it with a secret code to get 25% off your first order of the Story Clock Workbook. Just enter code THANKS Chrissy, THANKSCHRISSY at checkout. Now remember, this code is just for you and not for those other people who skipped ahead to this moment right here. Learn more about how you can use the Story Clock Workbook to develop your story ideas at plotdevices.co. Thanks, Chrissy. I mean, everyone.
We need Ferris Bueller's Day In or something. Ferris Bueller's
Ferris Bueller's Do-Over, Ferris Bueller's Second Chance, Ferris Bueller's...
Yes. It's got to be that. Something like that. But yeah, I love that one chance. And when he starts the day as usual, picks up Sloan.
Ferris Bueller's 53rd birthday.
Ferris Bueller's, I don't know.
3 wishes.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off, ... Again, exclamation point.
Spelled out, all of it spelled out, and the word spelled out. So
it's
Ferris Bueller's Day Off, ... typed out, exclamation point typed out, and then the word spelled out.
Okay, we'll get the title. But yeah, I like where this is going. So he goes back, starts to relive the day, and let's just go through his day. So they started, he had his fun day in his room. He convinced his parents he was sick, plays clarinet, does all the things, sets up his, sick guy in the bed. We can go through this really quick because we don't need to relive this like in real time. He calls Cameron. Cameron gets in his car, starts banging his...
I don't pause. I actually don't know. Sorry, I'm pausing you like you're a machine. But I feel like going back in time, we actually want to do the opposite. I feel like we want to savor these little moments. Like we want to be able to see the tiny moments in between those
okay, maybe that's fun.
That we saw.
Yeah, we see new things that we weren't able to see before of what he's doing in between.
Like he needs to go back. He's going to be like, my old synth. Burr, 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 burr. Like it needs to be like
it's a Lego sequel. You're right. It needs to be this thing where it's like, the audience, they haven't seen this in 40 years and we get to like sort of enjoy this nostalgic thing from the past. You're totally right.
Could his mom or dad be dead? So then seeing them, he's like, I don't know. Or Jeannie. I feel like, the relationship with Jeannie is another thing you want to actually kind of redeem somehow.
Because by the end of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, he loves his sister and they have this great relationship because they can kind of see eye to eye. Maybe it's not like this perfect relationship suddenly, but they at least like respect each other. So I think maybe him going back, if that respect is if Jeannie was the one constant person in his life that was still his friend as a 53-year-old.
And then when she hates him at the beginning of this, he's
like,
going to treat her.
Yeah, he hugs her.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, what the hell is going on?
And she and Rooney both are going to not believe anything that he says. Like they're going to believe it's all disingenuous.
Yeah.
And I think you kind of want to in this process reveal what a shithead he was. Like
totally. Because that's how when people, dive into the story structure or like the characters of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, it's always like Cameron's the protagonist. Ferris is a total douchebag.
Yeah.
So I think playing a kind of commentary on that as well would be super fun.
Oh my
and
God, you're right. This is a Christmas Carol, but with Ferris Bueller. It's great.
And that's ironic too. I feel like there's an ironic tone to playing up him as a douchebag, right?
So what are we saying? He goes back in time and he just, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, so he goes back. We haven't figured out how much time do we have? Have we been doing a timer?
Uh-oh.
Is it wild card
We're right
time?
at 25 minutes.
Facts?
We're getting the facts right now.
Okay.
Oh, and it looks like I'm getting it too. Do you mind if I read this one off, my friend?
Yeah, go for it.
Looks like it's coming. Oh, interesting. Okay, so the studio says they're about to demolish a building in downtown LA, and the studio was able to work out a deal to film it. So the executives really want us to work it into the plot somehow.
Well, it's going to be Chicago. It's
We're gonna have
Chicago.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to play it up as Chicago, but maybe maybe something he changed causes the building to destroy during the during the parade.
During the parade. Oh my God! And we just realized what this is. He goes back and tries to make his day normal. And really, what our goal as writers is to spend the entire second act trying to have every decision he makes cause a repercussion that leads to a much worse day for everybody else.
Totally, yeah, and future by that too.
And future. So, but even in that day, it needs to be we're talking about it for the future of the characters. We decided that, but this makes me realize it needs to be like him not dancing
ending.
in the parade causes a building to fall.
Causes the parade float with all the German women on it to crash into a building, which crashes into a pole, which and a building is destroyed, demolished.
Because his dance woke up a construction worker who was operating something, and without the dance and the song, the construction worker stays asleep and plows into the building and blows it up.
Twist and Shout is playing as the pandemonium of the parade, and someone else is on the parade float singing, and it just feels off.
So you know what? God, I feel like we lose our stakes by having him able to repeat it a couple times, but at the same time, it does allow us to show what would happen.
Well, I was going to say, what if we have him like what we were talking about? He has one chance. It starts off as normal. He picks up Cameron. They go to school. They pick up Sloan. Maybe they do, one thing. They drop off the car in the garage or whatever. And then he starts to realize that he's got to change. This day is the event in his life that sets him on this course, and he wants to change. So maybe he recommends they go back to school, or, something happens. He starts to change things. That's when things go awry. Things go really, really, really bad. And they continue to go bad, maybe up until the midpoint, or there's something that happens where it's almost goes the building or something happens, and almost you just wrote just wakes up. I was going to say he suddenly gets another chance right when maybe they die, or he almost
that's actually not what I'm going to pitch.
Okay, I was going to say the clicking of the heels and Wizard of Oz, when he realizes, oh no, this is going so bad. Maybe at that point he gets another chance. Or
the problem with that is it just doesn't feel. Tell me what you think.
It eliminates the stakes where it's okay, what does he get the chance? Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah, I kind of feel like the original day is gone. I feel like he should relive this day. So the just wakes up. I wrote that. I'll explain it in a second. But I feel like he should get to relive this day once, and he goes through a journey of changing his goal a couple times in this process, or maybe not too many times. So it's all right, let me back up, and you tell me if you don't like this. I don't want to just force this idea.
No. Please talk.
What's that?
Please talk.
Yes, sir. He wakes up one day. Basically, he's that was the last good day that I have. You have some kind of short, 53-year-old Ferris, show him where he is in his life, goes to bed. Then he wakes up the day of the movie, wakes up young again.
Okay,
and
so
it's
no item or magical person. He just wakes up there. That's happens. The fantasy. Yeah.
Just happens. And so he's we get this great, big, reverse big moment where he's sees himself in the mirror, or realizes where he is and what he looks like now, and has the exchange with his parents about that he has right there at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
And then instead of saying they bought it, he says something else to the audience of
it's works every time.
Oh my God. The worst thing is, oh my God, I'm back. And that's in the trailer, of course. Yeah. But you have him then start to live the day, I'm getting to live this again, whatever. And then you start to reveal his relationship with Jeannie, how much that sucks. And so maybe something needs to set him to where he's you know what, this day actually, you need to have him realize this in trying to relive this day and enjoy it. He starts to see
it's
not
around
fun
the
at
edges.
first.
Yeah.
What if at first it's just he's not having as much fun as he did originally? You somehow organically work your way to him wanting to change the day so that his life doesn't get screwed up entirely.
Well, I think too, I think it makes sense for Ferris to think selfishly about all of this stuff too, even as a 53-year-old. And so he starts in an effort to make his future life better. He's realizing, oh, I need to do these things. And he's thinking selfishly about them. And then that's when everybody else's lives
dirty fuel. Yes.
Start to turn bad. And he has to make the decision, do I make my life better for the future, or do I live this day out as I would to for everybody else's lives to be?
But that's the ultimate goal. Before he realizes the implications and the repercussions it has on his friends long term, he's firsthand dealing with the immediate implications of like people's lives he's messing up on that day, like the buildings that are falling because of him. That's like the ultimate big one, right? Yeah. And so we play up to that point. Like we basically have a lot of fun in the second act of like, once he decides he wants to change things after this, we get like a sequence of him trying to have fun and not having that much fun. And then we need a sequence where he learns where, I don't know how, but it still needs to be fun, but where we reveal that this was like the defining day that set his life on a different path. So then by the midpoint, that's when he's like, I have to make this day completely different. So then the first sequence of the third sequence of Act 2, then right after the midpoint, it's the first sequence after the midpoint. That's where he's trying to change the events of the day. And by the end of that one, buildings are falling down. In the next sequence, it needs to be all about realizing the long term. Maybe he like lives the day, screws it all up, wakes up, and he's back. Maybe he's back in the present day, I think, and his life is better.
Because he would need to see that his life, it fixed his life, but effed up everybody else's. And
including his son's. And his son's gone.
Oh no, the about time thing.
Well, and it sucks, but we play like this. It sucks.
Yeah, we have to play it up. And even if it's like, here's the thing. Him and Sloane are still together. They were able to stay together, but they lost their son. And
she's unhappy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I don't know about the son, but you're right. She's unhappy with him, but she was happy with whoever she ended up with in the other life. Yeah.
And he has to make the decision, maybe it's not just about us being together. Like it's about, her being happy and me learning to.
Yeah, deeper down, it's like, do I want to be happy or do I want Sloane to be happy? And I want Sloane and Cameron to be happy.
And
I don't know how the son works in there.
He's going to learn. Maybe we don't necessarily need the son. I think it just works for the shotgun wedding kind of thing. I think it's interesting too because by the end of the movie, he will learn how to be happy in the life that he has, as opposed to he has the ability for them to be happy in their lives, and him being able to learn to be happy with the life that he has and learn how to be better himself.
Okay, the third act takes place in present day, but we need to find a way to have a very Ferris Bueller sequence,
yes.
In that third act.
A day off, like as a 53-year-old.
Where, yes, we spent, so the third act.
How funny is it? Real quick, established in the first act that at the movie theater, he's about to get fired because he's been taking so many days off or been missing work and stuff.
That's great.
And he has to basically do the same thing where he skips workout, work this time instead of school. Anyways, continue.
Skips work or something, but the idea is of him going, you spend that third act, you don't ever go back to the day off. He doesn't go back and doesn't change anything again. He's already permanently altered it. So now he has to make things right in the present day. And if we could find a way to do that in a very Ferris way in the present day with our actors at the ages that they're at, that could be very, very fun.
Totally. Even if he picks him up and stuff.
Yeah.
Like if he picks up Cameron from his big time job as a CEO, he's like, Ferris, what are you doing here, man? He's like, hop in. It's like his terrible car or something. I like that before that,
Cameron is like, what is he's podcasting, or he's like doing something where he's not big rich CEO. He's like, but he's happy. He's like,
that's actually more interesting to me than him becoming his father. Basically, is what I was originally thinking.
Yeah, his unhappiness is becoming his father, but his happy version in the first act is the effects of.
Dude, imagine they never talked about it, but he's wearing like the Flyers jersey, like the hockey jersey throughout the whole first. Yeah. If he's like a sports podcaster or something.
Yeah, he's like Philly Jim from The Office. He's a sports writer or
exactly.
something.
Yeah. And so that that's his. So maybe Ferris picks him up. I like the idea of, especially as a Lego sequel to first act, we see him where he is now. The second act is seeing him in the past, or relive that day, and then the third act is him doing that in the present, having the day off in the present.
I'll break it down into four acts, right?
Yes.
First act, where he is in the present day. Second act, he goes back to the day from the original film and
fun times, happy.
Fun times, happy. Third act, of 4. Third act, he's realizing if I change this, my present life will become better again. Does that. Fourth act, I screwed up the present day for everyone else in my life. So now I have to loosen them up like I did in the original film. Now I have to like free them. I have to free Cameron in the way that I did in the original film, in the original day. And Sloane, I need to let her go. I need to let her go be happy and like, or whatever, it is.
So here's the thing, hearing you say it now, the thing that I'm not crazy about, because of what he did in 1986, they have suddenly had, how many years is that? 35 years living this unhappy life, and he's fixing them at the age of 53 to live a happy time the rest of their life, and they're losing.
Not fixing it, but starting it. We could do a very we could do a very poignant, bittersweet kind of a thing where we end it at the beginning of a journey. You know what I mean? Like,
I know,
maybe
but
there's a way
what
to
I'm
do it.
saying is when we saw them, they have just lived like 35 years of happiness, and Ferris is unhappy. But with the new ending, it's like,
we cheated them out of 35 years.
Yeah, we cheated them out of 35 years, and now they're living a happy
that
rest of
sucks.
their life.
I mean, honestly, that sucks. Like, that's a really crappy. Like, I think that's maybe a good pain if it's happening at the end of Act 2. At the end of like our.
To
big
me,
second
it's like
act.
Ferris causing that, and like these innocent
You
characters.
think it's irredeemable? You think it's irredeemable?
I think it kind of, that to me, that rings like, oh, that really sucks for these characters that they haven't done anything wrong. And
Maybe they're not unhappy. They're just not as happy as they were before.
no, I mean, narrative wise, it makes what you pitch makes more sense than what we were talking about than maybe him waking up or getting to redo that day and waking up and their life is, better or whatever. So yeah, let's just do it.
You sure? I don't want to steamroll you with it.
No, it's okay. I think I'm like, dude, poor Cameron and Sloane, they just lived like 35 years differently and now have to, but I think narrative wise, it makes sense. It's through Ferris's point of view. And I think at the end of the movie, if we find out a way for them all to be, living their best life.
And the whole idea is to get Ferris Bueller to a place of selflessness.
Yeah. And make him actually like pay for, like have consequences for his actions kind of.
On his, by his choice.
Yeah.
Because he's grown. It's taken him 35 years, but he finally grew a little bit.
So our conflict and our antagonists, in our current story, our antagonist is sort of the universe in a way.
Which is funny. Consequence, I've loved this term. I heard it from Vince Gilligan. He didn't coin it, but like consequence is bad if it benefits your character, but it's absolutely encouraged if it causes obstacles to your character and has negative consequences on your character. So I think, especially in a time travel story, consequence is hilarious and a very good thing to like just have things constantly going wrong for
And of
him.
course, we can still have Rooney and Jeannie know that something's like what is happening.
I love the idea of Rooney and Jeannie, like once he's trying to do like to change things, like they think I love the idea that they don't trust him and they think he's up to something. They're overthinking his
So, okay, we have sort of a broad story. We have about 9 minutes left. I think we should, start filling it in with some fun beats, especially if we're thinking about him doing a day off in this like third act, what that would look like in terms of like mirroring the original film. But
what was the midpoint of the original film? Let me go to plotdevices.co and go to the blog. And if I go to blog, I click story clock research logs, I can scroll down until I find Ferris Bueller. I can actually click on any one of them. And in the right-hand side, I will see a list of all the films we've story clocked. And there's your Ryan Pauly's story clock research log for Ferris
John
Bueller's
Oliver
Day
has
Off.
just found a new clip for his segment.
Yes. Well, that's okay. The Plot Devices sponsors this podcast.
I know, I
That's
love
okay. Dad almost catches Ferris. Rooney mistakes random woman for Sloane. They go to the Cubs game. And that's the point where, by that point, things are getting Cameron-y by that point, right?
Totally.
Or
Yeah.
he has he starts to have the existential crisis once they go to the...
It's hard because I'm like, there's a lot of fun and Ferris wanting to not have fun during the day, I feel like, because it would be really shocking to Sloane and Cameron as well, especially if Cameron, he just brought Cameron out to this like day off or whatever in the middle of it. If he's like, okay, let's go back. Cameron's like, well, no, we're already here.
You're right. We need to start off with that energy. Like he needs to actually show up in the past with it immediately as an opportunity to change things. So like when we meet him at 53, he needs to be explaining to the audience immediately like, that day was fun, sure, but it screwed up my entire life and here's how. And do you think I wanted to be working in a movie theater when I was 53? I don't even run the place. That guy's my boss. He's younger than I was that original day, yada yada. So I think he needs to like actually it's an answer to a prayer essentially, not literally, but it's wish fulfillment. When he wakes up and is able to relive the day, he immediately is like, nope, I'm living this thing spotless and clean. from the beginning, right?
Yeah, totally. So
that's the fun.
yeah, there's a lot of fun in that, and like there can be more like school hijinks. Like Sloan immediately is like, "Hey, so I thought we were doing the thing today." He's like, "Nope, going to school, like going to class or whatever."
He's like, "What thing? Well, no, going to school? You mean?"
Cameron's here. He's miserable.
He's at home still, sick.
Oh, that's right. That's right. He's sick. Cameron
Egypt's
was
land.
in Egypt's land.
That's my favorite thing from any movie. Oh, I just saw in your something in your story clock for this movie. Cameron talks about his daddy issues. There are a couple moments where he talks about the stuff around Ferris, and Ferris is like, "It's fine," but like essentially this attitude of like, "Pat you on the back," yada yada.
Yeah.
I like that in this movie he hears him. Like in this movie, what if he actually when Cameron talks about his dad, he hears it, but what if he relates to it? What if Ferris has kind of weirdly become Cameron's dad? Cameron's dad is successful, but Cameron's dad is also obsessed with his car. Like, maybe not. Now that we've painted Ferris as like he's no longer wanting to relive this day, he's actually wanting to change it. So never mind, ignore that.
I think we go back to your original idea where it's like he starts wanting to live it out, and then maybe like immediately like figures out, oh, I could change this. I can change the day by doing this or whatever. Because I still think we need him realizing that on where if he immediately is back there and like I guess it's hard. It's hard.
How about this? This might solve your problem. Is he shows up? He actually like he wakes up and he's like, this is a chance to redeem myself. Starts doing that. It is immediately difficult for him personally to follow the rules, to take things seriously.
Because if you're put back in your high school self, I don't know. I feel like I would kind of fall back into...
You would see through even more BS in high school as an adult.
Exactly.
Like, it would be even harder to like pay attention in class and stuff. So you start presenting him opportunities to be his Ferris self.
Yeah.
Even like someone leaves, it's like Leonardo DiCaprio at in the third act of Catch Me If You Can, where like you have Ferris like eating lunch and someone leaves like the door open outside, just wide open. And it's like, you know what I mean? Like you give him opportunities to bail or to escape.
Because I think, he starts trying to be good. And then by, halfway through the school day, he's like, he grabs Sloan and they pick up Cameron and they go try to make the most of their day. And that's when stuff starts to go really wrong.
And Sloan convinces him to, right? Like Sloan is like,
oh, totally. Yeah. Because they've been talking about it for, weeks or whatever. We're going on taking this fun day off. And of course that's Rooney's back on their tail at that point, And
what if he's like, we're just going to do one thing. We're just going to go see one, like maybe he says like one thing we're going to go do and that's it.
And because halfway through they have lunch, the Sausage King of Chicago. And then I think they go to the museum after that. And then it's the parade. I'm pretty sure.
Cubs game.
Is Cubs game after lunch?
Yeah, Cubs game is after lunch because they almost get caught by the dad in the car.
That's right.
Jeannie skips school to catch Ferris. They almost get caught. Oh, yeah. Lunch just isn't in here in the clock.
It is.
But yeah.
Sausage King in Chicago. It's right.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I'm sorry. Jeannie skipped school. Sorry. Yes, you're right.
Maybe right after lunch or something they ditch, or like during lunch at school they're like, let's go, let's make the most of the day. They pick up Cameron.
Okay, that's what we're building up to at the midpoint. Is he's like, everyone's like, you're up to something. Like Rooney's like, you're up to something. Jeannie's like, you're up to something. He's like, I'm not. And Sloan is like, I thought we were up to something today. He's like, we're not. I'm not up to something. Like over and over. The midpoint is he's like, all right, fine, we're up to something. And there has to be like a good reason to be up to something, totally. Right? Like either it's to go help Cameron or to just.
How funny would it be if when Clear Eyes guy is like Ferris or Bueller, he's like here, and it's like, oh, he moves on. Like, it'd be
that's great. Yeah, here. Oh my God, that's in the trailer. That's 100%. That's the moment.
Like, because it throws off the entire day. He has to sit through this boring class, and he's like, "What am I doing here?"
Oh, that's so good. If you, oh my God, that trailer would just be here, Bueller.
Yep.
And then here you find it, and it's like, oh, okay. And then you start the music, and you move into, oh my God, the boom.
Boom.
Dude, I love this movie.
It's really fun. Okay, so we have 2 minutes left. We got so obsessed with the play-by-play. But okay, let's just first act, they're doing this. They leave. Maybe after lunch they go to a Cubs game. Stuff starts to go wrong. Maybe they've got to go somewhere specific. I feel like they got to go to the they got to go to the museum, and Cameron, because Cameron has a big moment at the museum where he kind of is looking at the painting, and there's this big emotional moment, and then Ferris is like kissing Sloan. But if things are kind of off and he like doesn't kiss her or like I feel like there's iconography from the movie that we can play with to sort of show
100%. We need to play with the iconography, like every possible main piece of iconography from the film. We need to play with. I will say, I think that midpoint moment of like, okay, I am up to something. Like, fine. That actually needs to be. I feel like it's not we're just going to go to this one arbitrary location. We actually need to give him a reason to go somewhere. Like, there's some consequence that he has to go fix, or maybe he does just let loose real quick and goes out, and that causes.
What if something happens? Something in the morning that they did causes a ripple, and which makes them have to go out. Like, because in the morning they pick up Cameron, they drop the car off at the parking garage, and then I guess they go to lunch. I guess that's the whole morning. But what if there's some sort of ripple that happens when they miss out on something which causes them to go out? I don't know.
I feel like there's basically like his change needs to cause new problems, and we need to then just from that point on, early in the second act, when he makes a conscious choice to do things differently, to be here for the roll call, either that moment, something he specifically does around that point, or just the sheer act of changing his trajectory, needs to set off a new series of repercussions that, like, a new story that we are now on that. And we as writers engineer that story to take us through the events of the original day organically. We're no longer arbitrarily like lily padding to each of these events. We're just happen to be taken through them by a original story that we're now telling. Like,
totally.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, love that.
Time to pitch your movie.
All right.
Oh man, yeah, that was our hour.
That was very unexpected. I really like that.
Yes, I'm Seth. I'm very happy that you dropped Gremlins because we went from.
I really thought it's what the people would want, but this is
we
better.
went from one of my favorite Christmas horror movies to my favorite movie of all time, and so and I actually really like.
We did it kind of justice.
Yeah, I think so too. We'll see if it's ironic enough, or if podcast hosts will like it. But let's get into our focus group, shall we?
Let's see if podcast editors like it.
He's a director, editor, YouTuber, and the editor of this very podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Renee Gomez to the show.
Renee Gomez! You'll get that when you have to edit this episode later. You'll understand why we're yelling.
I'm so scared already.
Renee, thank you so much for actually being on the show. It's probably weird. You're going to be listening to your own voice while editing this episode. It is going to be
very weird. And I definitely won't make myself sound better. So
we get it back, and it's like Will Smith's voice somehow through AI.
Morgan Freeman,
Renee has spent thousands of his own dollars to ADR with the different characters.
With the name movie star.
Yes. But Renee, we've got a very fun movie to pitch you today. I'm going to just prep you real quick.
Okay.
So our movie is actually, I'm going to spoil one of the mandates, but it's actually a lega-sequel, which is, lega-sequel would be like
Cobra Kai to Karate Kid.
So it's a sequel to a beloved
Space Jam
80s movie, but placed in modern time. We're following these characters in present day, and it's actually...
But where it appeals to new audiences as well.
Totally. And the movie is Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the beloved John Hughes teen comedy following Ferris Bueller, our lovable slacker, as he takes his girlfriend Sloane and his balled up friend Cameron on a adventure day of hooky, and we see all of we see all the fun they go on. So this is actually a lega-sequel to that movie. Seth, would you like to prep him at all?
Just on the concept.
Yeah, no, you just start our pitch. Yeah, why not?
So thank you for meeting with us, Renee. So this story is about when we find Ferris. He is just celebrated his 50th birthday. I just added that, Polly. It's his 50th birthday. So technically it takes place 3 years ago, like maybe 2019 or 2018-ish. Doesn't matter. Like, we're loose. The original film came out in 1986. We figured out Ferris would be like around 53 now. So Ferris, we find him, he is working in a movie theater. He's not even the boss. He's like the assistant manager at a movie theater. He's living life. He's I hate to say the word loser, but he's a loser. Living his best life. He's a loser. Sloane, we come to learn, he very quickly comes to narrate and tell us that, like,
you have to say his first line of the movie.
Life moves terribly slow.
Life moves terribly slow. If you don't blink, you can miss it or something.
You can miss 53 years of your life. And so,
oh my gosh,
or however many years, it's been 35 years. We come to learn he and Sloane, basically he says that day that was the best day of my life, and it was the last good day that I've had in my life. We come to learn he and Sloan got pregnant that day. Like they conceived a baby that day. So they got married. It was a shotgun wedding. The marriage did not work out. Sloan moved on. Ferris doesn't have a whole lot of contact with this kid. Cameron.
Ferris is actually still living at his parents' house as well.
Oh, Ferris still lives at his parents' house.
This is so depressing.
I know, right? Well, it's how we think Ferris's life worked out afterward. He and Jeannie do have a good relationship. Jeannie's the only one who's kind of stuck, in and still talks to him. He doesn't talk to Cameron anymore. Cameron is now a very successful CEO of his dad's company.
No, in this he's a sports.
I'm sorry, you're right.
He's a sports podcaster. He's sort of he has a sports like marketing startup, and he's very happy.
Like Jim at the end of The Office. And so Cameron is actually happy. He's not the CEO of his dad's company. I apologize. And Sloan is happily remarried too. Ferris is the only one who's just living a very, very depressing life. And he basically tells us, he's like, if I could do anything, I'd go back and I'd change that day entirely. And then one day Ferris wakes up and it is 1986. He is his high school self again, as seen in the original film. That original day, he wakes up, realizes what's happened, has the quick exchange with his parents. His parents leave and he turns to the camera, and instead of saying they bought it, he says something really cliche like, I'm back. And obviously that goes in the trailer and it's everywhere. So then he quickly realizes, this is my chance to change things. My chance to change the course of this day and fix my life. And basically, Polly, you want to take it from here?
Yeah, he kind of realizes he had so much fun that day, but maybe the consequences of my actions, the consequences of sort of skipping school, being lazy, living life just to have fun, affects me in negative ways. What if I change this day and actually was a responsible student?
I'm going to graduate.
Yes, I'm going to graduate.
Like the idea that
I'm going to have a better life. And so he actually goes to school that day. He shows up.
Like we cut to Ben Stein saying Bueller, and then Ferris is there. He's like, here, right here.
So he goes to school. Sloan's there. Sloan's kind of thinking like, oh, I thought we were going to have this incredible day off today, but he's acting weird, whatever. Jeannie, his sister, and Principal Rene are just very suspicious because they're like, he's acting way too good. There's something is happening. What was the phrase we kept on using, Seth? It was
like, you're up to something, aren't you? You're up to something. He's like, no, I'm not up to something. I'm literally like anti something. I am down to nothing right now. And Sloan, meanwhile, is like, I thought we were up to something today. And he's like, no, we're not up to something. We're just sitting here. But it's also at the same time kind of like the third act of Catch Me If You Can, right? Where like he's eating lunch and there's an open door like right next to him to where like he could just leave school at any moment if he wanted to. But he's like tempted to, but can't. And so finally around the midpoint, Polly, sorry, go ahead, man.
No, I was just going to say, and Cameron, meanwhile, is still at home sick. He was saying that he's, Cameron was in Egypt land, let my Cameron go. He's just...
Cameron's still in Egypt land.
He's chilling at home. So our midpoint is actually at some point during the day. I think we talked about maybe at lunch or sometime during the school day. Ferris has had enough. He can't live his life like this, being a goody two shoes and being responsible. And he's like, you know what? We're up to something. And he takes Sloan and they leave. And he's like, we're gonna go on the rest of this day. We haven't figured out exactly in our story, but there's something that they missed. Obviously, the first day of their day off that we saw in the original movie, and something being off in that timeline has sort of caused a ripple, which is giving them sort of a think of it like a Nexus event that happened when they came back here. But it's causing them weird things to happen in this world that didn't happen in the first movie. Bad consequences to whatever actions Ferris is taking.
I mean, here's a really dumb example. Like him not being in the parade caused them. They never did a big musical number to Twist and Shout that made the whole city dance. So this one construction worker running a crane who had fallen asleep at the wheel wasn't woken up by the song, and so he actually plows the crane into a building and a building demolishes because of Ferris, right? Because of Ferris playing it safe that day. And so
and we see these not only in these big, sort of city, ending events like a building being demolished in downtown Chicago, but also in the emotional stakes. We see these iconic moments from the original movie, them going to a museum and things are just a little off. Him and Sloan don't kiss. Cameron, there's all these little moments that we're seeing that are causing negative things to happen. And as we get into our third act, Ferris is realizing that positive changes that that he's trying to make in his life are affecting his friends in negative ways.
Well, he realizes that right when he wakes back up at the end of the day and he's back in the present day, and things have changed because he relived that day differently, and he wakes up and Sloane's still married to him, and it's very clear immediately she's not happy. Cameron is now the CEO of his dad's company, and he's unhappy, right?
Yeah.
They all still talk, and Ferris realizes my life is better, but everyone else is not as good as it was for them before. And Ferris realizes I would rather they be happy than I be happy. And so we're not sure what the specific...
At which point you hear, boom, boom.
Okay, yeah. but like a very sensitive version of it, like a very
and Ferris,
emotional.
This is the point in this story where Ferris realizes that he needs to reassemble this group of friends and have one more day off to try to set them back on a positive path. And he has this selfless. He finally learns that if he can be selfless and give them the life that they deserve, that he can sort of figure out how to be happy in his own life the way it was.
And so the third act of the movie is in the present day, him basically giving them a day off, like going and taking Cameron out of his job and kind of reigniting his like love life with Sloane in this process too, but all at the end, very Ted Lasso way, like telling Sloane she can go, like letting Sloane go so she can move on from him, and helping Cameron let go of his BS with his dad, of his like need to please his dad. And so that's where we want to work him by the end of the film. It's all about making Ferris Bueller selfless again through the process of like having him relive his day with ulterior motives. And we have about 1,000 different titles for the film.
I highlighted Ferris Bueller's New Day, but I just saw this other one, which is awesome, also awesome, Seth, that you just pulled in.
Yeah, Ferris Bueller Saves Ferris. I kind of like that one too.
Oh, that's pretty good.
I love that one because it incorporates not only the title of the old movie, but also the tagline that everybody remembers that are on the buttons in the water tower. But that's sort of our movie, and I really like, the movie could sort of end with him again looking into the camera and saying like, life moves in weird directions or something,
Life moves at varying speeds.
Life moves, yes.
Life moves.
But that is our movie, Ferris Bueller Saves Ferris. So, first off, before we ask you your questions, Renee, any thoughts, comments about our pitch?
Well, that was interesting. I did not expect that. A Space Jam 2 type Ferris Bueller sequel.
We didn't either.
Ferris Bueller, a new legacy.
Ferris Bueller's New Legacy.
It actually works, but
it really does.
That actually works. I dig that. My first thought is, would you get another actor to play Matthew Broderick?
No. We have some incredible de-aging technology that we borrowed from the folks at Marvel Studios.
It would be a combo of de-aging, and also some of the some deep faking. We would have it'd be like you'd get a younger actor doing the performance. We'd also get Matthew Broderick giving his performance as well. Same with the other actors.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really incredible tech, and they've put hundreds of millions of dollars behind this Ferris Bueller Legacy sequel.
For this sequel
to a teen comedy from 1986.
to a team of podcasters who've never made a feature before.
Oh, okay.
That's the power of Broderick, baby.
If you're out there and you know Matthew Broderick, send him a link to this episode, please, and tell him to call 1-866 HEY-WRGS.
Yes, I think he's gonna love it. I mean, I'm honestly speechless to this idea.
In a good way or bad way?
Yeah, would you see this movie?
What I see, I feel like it's so hard to say no to that. It's like I saw Space Jam 2. You know what I mean?
I love your answer is, I saw Space Jam 2, so I have no excuse not to see this.
I literally have no excuse not to see it.
Put that on the poster.
So the answer is yeah.
Yeah, the Ferris Bueller
no
Saves
excuse
Ferris,
to not see it.
The trailer, it'll be like, I saw Space Jam 2, Renee Gomez.
So I have to see this.
That's like the pull quote on the trailer.
Oh my God, I love it. Would you recommend it to a friend?
Probably, yeah.
So you're an interesting target or focus group for this, because you obviously have a fondness for nostalgia and sort of these retro. Typically for you, I feel like it's a lot of like horror and these cult movies. But do you like Ferris Bueller's Day Off? The original?
Oh, yeah. Probably my favorite Hughes film. So, no, I really like it, which is why, that's why I'm like, because normally it's like there's a movie I really like, and then they'll do a sequel years later, and it's like, oh, that was fun. And then I just never think about it again.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason why I was like, and which is why I would watch it, because I really like the original.
Yay!
That's good enough for me.
Yeah, good enough for me.
Good enough for the studio. They got your money.
That's yes. I think people will watch it. I think people are gonna love it or hate it.
Renee, what?
And make video essays about it. So
Yeah, that's true.
yes,
That's true.
Why Ferris Bueller 2 sucks.
Corridor Digital will do that. We did our own deep fake from Ferris, so it looks way better than the film.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, and I would watch all of it. Renee, try to guess our assignment.
Okay, you said the mandate was.
Yeah, the first mandate I did say a lega-sequel to a beloved 80s classic.
He's not going to be able to guess these. These are
Is-
they're like,
you can
we
try.
don't really. Okay.
Is it anything related to the multiverse type thing?
No.
Because didn't you mention that? Okay.
It was, I mean, so genre was fantasy.
Oh.
We kind of
Yeah.
left the hard fantasy, like hard fantasy, hard sci-fi.
hard fantasy.
Nothing can be real.
It's high fantasy. High fantasy is actually the genre.
Fantasy.
Originally we were going to do like some sort of item or being comes to Ferris to kind of almost like a ghost of Christmas past or whatever to
Okay.
send him back. But we kind of left it and did more of a he just wakes up and it's kind of like that. So that was fantasy. Our tone, you can try to get. It is actually pretty difficult. Our tone.
Your tone depressing.
Oh no.
Ironic.
Ironic.
Ironic. What's the tone?
Ironic. Oh, okay. I can
And
see
then
that.
you definitely won't get our target audience, which is
Oh,
podcast hosts.
Wait. The target audience is
Podcast
podcast
hosts.
hosts. Okay.
We like it.
We
All
like
right.
it.
I mean, yeah, it works. The
Ferris
guys who
Bueller
made
is
it like
Ryan
it.
Polly's. Ferris Bueller is our, one of our hosts' favorite movies.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
And then our wild card was actually they were demolishing a building in downtown LA, and the studio I guess purchased. I don't know.
got permission to film it in some way, and so we needed to work that into the film.
So
So,
that's-
it's standing in for Chicago, but we would be demolishing a building in LA as a repercussion of Ferris's, not being in the parade.
Oh, I think you guys worked that in really well, actually. I wouldn't
Great.
guess.
And I like that you went with construction workers, Seth, because there are obviously dancing construction workers in the
Yeah.
parades.
Yeah, one of them just woke up from a nap in a crane.
So irresponsible. Oh my
That's
god.
I'm just imagining this amazing, like, huge, big blockbuster, like, building fall sequence.
In the Ferris Bueller trailer. Twist and shout, come on and shake it up, baby. Now it's just building falling.
Yeah. Oh my god.
This huge action movie beat and a Ferris Bueller trailer, and it cuts to black, and then it just Bueller. Here.
Dude, and the song is either Twist and Shout played somber,
It's a moody version, dark and moody version of Twist and Shout.
or it's Dark and Moody, the chicka chicka song.
Yes. Chicka, chicka.
Chicka chicka, bow
Yeah, dude.
bow chicka. That's what the Bow Wows are,
Just that.
bombs.
Just make that the soundtrack.
That would actually be great for this
Oh my
build.
god, it's literally bow wow chicka chicka, bow wow.
Very Hans Zimmer-esque, yeah.
And the whole trailer is just the building, like, falling sequence, and they're like, oh, holy crap, what is this? Oh, what is this movie?
And then you just hear it goes to black, and you hear life moves pretty fast. Bow wow. Chicka, chicka.
Life moves pretty fast.
The Writers' Room Game Show with me, Ryan Polly, and Seth Worley. Executive produced by Grant Wakefield at Weekend Video and Ann Fogerty at Plot Devices. Edited to perfection by Renee Gomez. Our art is by your buddy, Meg Lewis, and our face-melting music is by Ben Worley. The Writers' Room Game Show is a Weekend Video production in association with Plot Devices. Learn more about Weekend Video at weekend.video and check out writersroomgame.show to listen to all of our episodes and suggest your own prompts for future shows. And don't forget to rate and review our show on Apple Podcasts. It really helps our show out a lot. See you in the next one.
This episode of the Writers' Room Game Show is over. It's also sponsored by Plot Devices, creators of the Story Clock Workbook. Did you know that over 84% of podcasts end with sponsor ads just like this? I had no idea. Mostly because I just made that number up. If you like to make stuff up, the Story Clock Workbook is for you. It's built for taking your cool story ideas and whittling them down into actual stories. Ones you can tell over a campfire to your adolescent friends as a submission for their approval. Maybe after throwing a mysterious and seemingly flammable powder into the fire with no sign of adult supervision anywhere. Or other kinds of stories. The point is, go to plotdevices.co and purchase 27 Story Clock Workbooks. And don't be friends with anyone who requires that you scare them in order to win their approval. You can learn more about the Story Clock Workbook at plotdevices.co and use code GAMESHOW to get 20% off your first order.